Just wanted to give you an accurate representation of what it was like to be here for Colorado's 41-27 win over Texas Tech. Thanks for watching the channel. Matt Smith here as always. Like and subscribe, you know the drill, and let me know what you think in the comments. The tortilla toss, I mean, we'll start there. It was like a war zone in the first quarter, okay? I mean, tortillas after kickoffs, after score, I mean, from everywhere. Corn tortillas, flour tortillas, that big, this big, however you want it. It was tortilla fest here, and honestly, it was insane. It was ridiculous, and not in a good way. It's the dumbest tradition I've ever heard of, okay? It doesn't really add anything to the game, and it's a safety hazard for everybody. I really think it's dumb, and I cannot believe they're allowed to do it like this. However, they don't normally do it like they did tonight. After talking to a couple of different people, this was from a game day environment, game day operations perspective. They really there's a word, kind of Creole, lagniappe, means a little extra. That's what they did tonight. They had crowd noise being pumped in right on Colorado's sideline, and they also had the microphone hooked up from the band, and they had all the sound effects kind of getting pumped out, which I talked to the Texas Tech cheerleaders. They say that never happens. That's not how it goes here. Again, we know this. We know this. We've seen this now. It says Colorado is everybody's Super Bowl, okay? And they were Texas Tech Super Bowl. I mean, they blew this thing out. Big Noon was here. The student body was fired up for this. And then, again, the crowd noise, I felt like, as far as like the in-game atmosphere, it was so insane, and I literally had to wear my wireless earbuds just as earplugs. And right now, this guy's going around the field blowing off all the tortillas. I'd be fine if I never came back to Lubbock, honestly. I mean, whatever. Buffs came, Buffs conquered, and they got what they needed, which was another win, 7-2. And now with that Iowa State loss, they do control their own destiny. Again, Texas Tech, it kind of felt a little bit like a mini version of what they were treated to in Lincoln as far as crowd atmosphere, hostility, et cetera, and it felt like it in the first quarter. But I'll tell you, the biggest difference, and I want to really start here, the biggest difference for me is watching this, I didn't think, oh no, there goes the farm. At Nebraska, I thought, oh no, there goes the farm. They have grown so much since then, and they have found different ways to win throughout the course of this season. In my opinion, that's what showed up tonight. You go down 13-0, claw your way back. Didn't end the first half with the touchdown you wanted to. It was 13-10, right? Well, here's the thing. That is some adversity. They got the ball back out of the locker room, but I mean, it just felt like, man, things weren't going their way. But as Shedeur mentioned, and Cameron Silman-Craig and Amari McNeil after the game, there was no panic on the sideline. Nobody was freaking out. They had to make some adjustments. They did so. They started playing better football, and eventually they ran all over Texas Tech. 3 second-half turnovers make this score look a little bit more lopsided, I think, than at times it was. But truthfully, after Tech's offense kind of got a little bit of rhythm early, Colorado's defense eventually stood up, and it was really kind of into that second quarter, started to get some stops, weren't as susceptible through the air. Tech was doing a really good job just kind of taking advantage of Colorado in man coverage. They were running those drags, running those crossers, and more than anything, they were literally setting basketball screens. I have never seen, and I'm not one to complain about officials, I want you guys to understand that. If you have been paying attention to the channel, you watch the channel, you know I almost never talk about the refs. 4 of the most egregious OPI calls missed, and that's just another layer of adversity that Colorado had to weather tonight. It was, okay, you're going to have to fight Texas Tech, you're going to have to fight the crowd, and to a degree, you're going to have to fight the officials. I'm pretty sure one of the refs made Shedeur come and change before the game. He was in his kind of workout clothes. He made him change. The point was, this is a true road environment, a true hostile environment. Late in the season, this requires a lot of character, a lot of poise, and that's what Colorado showed once again tonight. And once the crowd started to die down after that first Wester touchdown, amazing job keeping himself in bounds there, I felt like the whole dynamic really of this game changed. And it was Colorado who, again, they didn't fret, they didn't panic, they didn't second guess themselves. They said, all right, get back in this thing, and they did. And they eventually went on with it. And look, I think altogether, as far as like a total team effort, I don't know if it was. Offensively, they were good tonight. They scored 41, but in my opinion, just they weren't very sharp at times. Like, they didn't run the ball all that well compared to how they'd been running it. I think it'd been over 100 yards for their last 6 weeks. Tonight, I think it was sack adjusted. They finished with about 81 yards, which, hey man, you'll take that. And they stuck with it, right? I'm pretty sure they had like 27 carries and only 3 sacks, so 24 carries. Hey, look, Shedeur scrambled as well, and that was important. He picked up some big first downs with his feet and kind of, instead of taking a 10-yard sack, which you'll notice he really hasn't been doing that much lately. They're doing a much better job getting the ball out of his hands and kind of scheming it. The game plan, I thought, just a little bit disjointed, but at first, and then they made the corrections, and it was back to the quick game, and I thought they really set up the run with the pass, and you know, the defense stepped up at the end to the point where the offense didn't really need to have this unbelievable output to get you over the hump, which is another sign of growth, just finding a different way to win. Shedeur finished 30 of 43 for 291 yards, 3 touchdowns, taking 3 sacks. Coach Prime said a couple of those sacks were on him. Look, I thought he played fine tonight. Not his best game, but definitely efficient, and again, they weren't asking him to do too much. I'll tell you, I think the offensive line did a really good job. Texas Tech, I think they had the fewest sacks in the Big 12 coming into this one, but there wasn't heavy pressure. He wasn't getting drilled a ton. There was one roughing the passer called against Texas Tech, but I think that one was even a little bit debatable. But the point is that Colorado protected the quarterback, and for the most part, they did a really good job defensively on the #1 list on their scouting report, which is running back Taj Brooks, who I believe became Texas Tech's all-time leading rusher in the program tonight. And Amari McNeil, after the game, said, you know, that was our goal, is to make sure that he didn't get that record. However, he got it. I think it was 31 carries, 143 yards. But up until the fourth, I think he had 25 carries, 86 yards. And he is the bulk of their offense. Morton, I didn't think Morton played all that well, Baron Morton tonight. You know, early I thought he did a good job getting the ball out of his hands, but wasn't his best game. And then once Colorado did take the lead, well, then it was like, all right, starting to lean on you a little bit with this pass rush, getting into more 3rd and long situations, obvious passing downs, and they did start to tee off on him a little bit. He did take 7 sacks at the end of the day, which for Colorado, compared to where they started the year, I mean, I think we all understand that. That's a pretty damn good number. Don't care who you are, don't care who you're playing. You sack the other team 7 times, that's solid. Not to mention, again, 3 second-half turnovers really helped the Buffs kind of put this game away. But I would say this was, you know what it was for me, and I'll be honest? I'm sitting there in the post game, and I'm watching Coach Prime, and I'm watching Shedeur, and I'm watching Amari McNeil and Cameron Silman-Craig, and I'm thinking to myself, like, they're growing in front of our eyes in real time. Like I say, finding different ways to win, it may sound cliche, but that's really important because nothing's going to go according to plan. It's football, right? I mean, sure, maybe we'll do some things that we want to do and execute here or there, but that's the nature of sports. You've got to be ready to bounce back at any moment, right? Who knew that Texas Tech would set 3 giant speakers on Colorado's sideline to pump in crowd noise? Is that okay? I mean, is that fair play? I guess so. I have no idea if that's okay. But I'll tell you this, as I brought up earlier, they did it for the Buffs, but you know what? Colorado's seen that. And as Shedeur mentioned and as Cam mentioned afterwards, and even Coach Prime, they're used to this, right? They deal with hostile environments wherever they go because people want to come see them play. Because people want to see Shedeur, people want to see Travis, they want to see the Buffs and Coach Prime, right? As well as everybody else. And, you know, they're always keyed up, and it felt really keyed up in here. I heard some of the most egregious things shouted at players tonight, really gross stuff. Much worse than whatever I heard in Lincoln. And sounds like maybe there was an incident with one of the officials and with Coach Prime. There was a moment where they were delaying the game a little bit because of, you know, all of the debris that was being thrown on the field, full water bottles. When the Buffs went in at halftime, I was sitting there filming them. Somebody lobbed and beamed somebody in the helmet with a full bottle of water. I mean, that's just unacceptable. There's no place for that. And after a while, it became ridiculous. It became ridiculous because I think we all expected, hey, they throw the tortillas up, kind of like you do at the Coors Event Center for CU basketball after the first bucket. You throw up the newspaper, great, tortillas done. No, it was the whole game. And you know, you just got to adjust to that. And by the end, it was like, oh my God, enough with these tortillas. I mean, first of all, again, I brought it up earlier, dumb tradition, giant waste of food. It doesn't really make sense. Like, I haven't investigated how that started. Maybe there's a cool story. I don't really care. It's dumb, it's unsafe, and I'm pretty surprised they're allowed to do it. Other things to note, again, running game just, it felt like Augusta had a couple of really nice carries. He finishes 10 carries for 34 yards, had a long of 13 and average of just 3.2. Obviously not great, but a couple of those he busted. And I was surprised that Dallin ended up getting as many touches as he did. It turns out only 6, but he was in there for quite a few snaps, at least I thought tonight, comparatively. And look, I thought Isaiah ran well. Dallin kind of back under 3 yards per carry. Shedeur, again, with the scrambles, I thought really important. When he runs, and he's a threat to run, and you have to determine whether it's Shedeur, whether it's Augusta or Hayden, or whether it's Travis or Shepard or Westard or Horn. Come on now. That is way too much for one defense to have to try and figure out. And when all those pieces seem to be working and Colorado eventually got the engines going a little bit, they are really, really tough to stop, okay? All things told, Travis Hunter, 16 targets, 9 catches, 99 yards and a touchdown. He did have a pick that was taken away due to penalty, which is a shame because in my frame on my camera, I've got it where you see everybody else and then you just see Travis's feet. Like the guy is just a freakish athlete, just a freak. And, you know, another really solid night for his Heisman campaign. Altogether, the one real big bummer in that receiver room, while we're talking about the receiver room, Jimmy Horn got hurt. I did see on social media, somebody said he did slip on one of the tortillas. I don't know if that's what got him hurt, but they didn't have him. Oh, you guys are gonna love this one. Oh, he cut it off. He cut it off. I thought this guy was about to bring the blower right behind me and we were gonna have tractor gate from last week all over again, but we didn't, so we're good. I appreciate that this gentleman right here stopped the blower, but he's gonna run it right again because he probably needs to blow off the end zone. Whatever. Here's my point. I'm getting through this one way or another, okay? Other things I like, that's what I get for saying it like that. All right, good. All right, he's out of here. They're out of here. I got a second with you guys. There was some undisciplined nature from Colorado tonight. 14 penalties, 106 yards. You don't like to see that. Some of those were undisciplined. I thought some of them maybe happened a little bit late too. And altogether, I think there was a little bit of rust they had to shake off from the bye week. Just kind of get get everything going again, get on the same page again. The one thing that we heard a lot from the coaching staff this week heading into the game, they talked about how they were expecting offenses before tonight this season to go up tempo. There were a couple of games, they didn't reference exactly which ones, but they expected some up tempo and never ended up seeing it. So one of the things that we heard from the defensive coaches this week is, well, let's see how we handle this up tempo offense. And I think there was a little bit of, it was a little shaky in the second half at times, only because just some substitutions getting in and out of the field, different personnel packages. He's barreling down right towards me. Different personnel packages. That is louder than the tractor, if you'll believe it. And there was some substitution errors. Coach Prime at one point was berating the coaching staff because, that happened to them last week. And, it's just kind of a sign that your guys aren't completely dialed in, or maybe your call's taking too long to get in. And, either way, you had to iron it out, and they did. All told, Colorado did eventually give up 400 yards, but a lot of that came in the fourth quarter when Colorado's up double digits, and, you're kind of just letting, Texas Tech, making sure you can kind of hold them, but they're making their way down the field a little bit. That's when Brooks did the most of his damage. I mean, I think he had almost had like 60 yards in the fourth quarter. All week they're talking about, hey, it's Brooks and the up tempo. And I thought there were a couple of times tonight where maybe they got caught late in and out of the sideline, coming in and off the field, on and off the field. Jeez. But you didn't see too many mistakes where guys were misaligned, right? Where guys weren't in the right gap and bam, Brooks hits one and breaks one on you, or you're struggling to communicate lining up before maybe somebody, you bring them to the outside or a motion and you don't talk, and because the snap's getting off early. And the one thing Morton does is his best throw is that little inside slant, but they batted him down, they picked him off. He finishes 24 of 40. We knew this was going to happen again, right? He finishes 24 of 40 with 275, 2 touchdowns. I mean, look, all things considered, it did get a little bit shaky down the stretch, only because it was like, man, there was probably like 3 minutes too long on the 3 minutes too much left on the clock for them to kind of play the way they did. I'm talking about the Buffs. There was a lot of throwing at the end. I did think that maybe a little animosity had built up over the course of the game because these fans were giving it to them, and you want to ruin this day for them. Yet again, another massive recruiting day. Sold out recruiting, yet all the recruits here. Well, guess what? They got treated to another show. Sorry. But again, I just didn't think what Texas Tech does really well killed Colorado too much. Once they adjusted and started running more zone, you know, against some of those drag looks, and again, the basketball screens that weren't called tonight, I thought that, and even Coach Prime and Cameron Silman-Craig mentioned that after the game, by the way, it was very obvious. It was, if you go back and you watch the film, you're like, geez, it is some of the more glaring, you know, OPI and a pick play that you're gonna see. So altogether, okay, Kelly had 8 catches, 106 yards. I mean, honestly, did anybody notice that he had that much? I didn't, not until the postgame. I sat down, looked at the final box and went, 100 yards? 100 yards? Shoot, I didn't notice that. And I think the point is that you've got Brooks, you've got the RPO, you've got the up-tempo. At the beginning of the game, they march down, they score their first touchdown, right? You said, all right, well, that's not great, not a good start. The crowd's raucous, here come the tortillas. And then they settled down. They really did, and it wasn't Brooks that beat them badly. They stopped the run really well. And Shane Cokes wasn't playing tonight, which was a loss for them. And Quinn Barnes and Amari McNeil, I thought, on the whole, along with Chidozie Nwankwo, I thought all 3 of those guys did a fantastic job. The one thing that's tougher on field level is to evaluate every single member of the line play. I was curious to see if Tyler Brown took any snaps at D tackle tonight. I don't think he did. He did play at offensive line after, you know, this week in practice, getting the 2-way designation from Coach Prime. Special teams were not good outside of Alejandro Mata. Mata was their best tonight easily. Mark Vassett, not his best night. Not his best night. He had a couple when it mattered to pin him, but there was a bad shank in the first half, and I just didn't think height, you know, distance-wise, he had a lot of pop tonight. I mean, you kick at altitude, you come back down here, maybe you're not used to that, but also it was a little chilly and it was definitely windy. One thing I didn't realize about Lubbock is just how damn cold the wind is. Yesterday was freezing. It must have been like 50, but felt like it was when I left Colorado, and right now it ain't warm, I'll tell you that much. But special teams was a nightmare. They had to eventually go back to the pooch kick, which did actually work. In fact, I thought it worked a lot better than it did the first time they did it. I want to say against Baylor. Against Baylor was the first time they did it because they kind of were susceptible and gave up a couple of big breakdowns, kick returns. They went pooch, and Mata, I thought, did a really nice job with that, and they swarmed the ball a little bit better, so they limited the returns they gave up. But I'll just say, like, we know the problems they're having with kickoff. They haven't gone away. They haven't gone away at all. And that is the one thing that it really hasn't burned them too badly yet, and that's something that they have to guard against. I don't know if it's trying somebody else kicking off. I don't know what it is. But honestly, at this week, what does it hurt you to have an open kicking competition for kickoffs? I mean, I imagine they've been doing that just about every week, but they don't have anybody who can put it in the end zone. That's such a problem. Like, later in the year, it's going to be anyway, you got to tighten it up. You got to tighten it up. Special teams were not great, and they know as much, and they know as much as well. And again, coverage units, some good plays, not a lot. Let's see what else. I tell you, I'm getting it from both sides here. I got the leaf blower over here, and I got this guy with the riding leaf blower over here. Let's see, other notes to bring up here. Defensively, Nakai Hill-Green, I thought, played a nice game. Had that interception, some big plays in the running game. Colorado just didn't miss a lot of tackles tonight, which I think they were maybe just a little bit concerned about with Brooks because of the patience that he has. It reminded the coaching staff a little bit of, they even called him Le'Veon Bell this week, which, high praise. I can tell you, bad comp. Maybe on film, not in the game. I mean, 31 carries, 143 yards. I'm in hell here, guys. I mean, I am fighting for my life. Let's see. Other things to note. Bentley, I thought, played well. Arden Walker, the Colorado kid. Arden played really well tonight. He did. He had a big sack. What do you have, 2? 2 and 2 tackles for loss. How about that number? Colorado, 7 sacks, 10 tackles for loss, 17 combined. You take it. You take it all, you know, every day of the week, twice on Sundays. If you're able to get that much penetration in the backfield and be that disruptive to their offense, which again, when Colorado got up a little bit, they just pinned their ears back and they got after Texas Tech. Let's see, 3rd downs. Whoa, is that real? Wow. 2 of 13 for the Buffs. That is crazy. 2 of 13 on third down. It felt like that. There were many times where they just couldn't sustain drives. Wow, I didn't even realize that. 2 of 13. Meanwhile, Texas Tech, 10 of 20. And it felt like that on the field, which is maybe why I said a little bit earlier, hey, look, you know, it wasn't the smoothest night from their offense. They did struggle to extend drives, and 2 of 13, winning a game 41-27, going 2 of 13 on third down is borderline miraculous, if not full-blown miraculous, okay? And again, you know, I thought in the second half, again, Texas Tech 10 of 20 on third down. A lot of those 10 that they weren't able to convert had to be in the second half. I thought Colorado bottled them up. You know, they're averaging just a tick over 7 points allowed per opponents in second halves this year by their defense. Got to be one of the best numbers in the country. Just final notes here. If there's anything else I wanted to bring up, that is a staggering number, 2 of 13 on third down. I didn't even see that until just now. I'm a little bit blown away and taking a second to digest that. 5 of 5 for Colorado in the red zone, both defensively and offensively in the red zone this year. The Buffs have been really good, and they've credited Kevin Mathis with that. Their DBs coach a lot, and Pat Shermer, and certainly with an improved ability to run the football, there's more the defense has to prepare for, which can tend to give you more one-on-one looks, which is what we saw with Will Shepard. Amazing one-handed grab. Shepard tonight, 8 balls, 79 yards, a touchdown. Wester, 6, 82 and a touchdown. This is probably, I'd have to go back and look, but 4 guys caught passes tonight, and Shedeur completed 30 balls. That's got to be the fewest amount of receivers utilized in a game this year, just on first thought. But it just goes to show you, you have 3 or if not 4 legit ones when Jimmy's healthy, and hopefully he'll be back next week, because there's been an emphasis within the program to try and get him back involved and get his numbers going. Coach Prime talked about it at the presser on Tuesday, and even after the game, I'm pretty sure against Cincinnati, kind of talking about Jimmy needing to get Jimmy the football more. It was a point of emphasis. Unfortunately, he gets hurt. Hopefully he's back. We'll see about Shane Cokes. Deion Hayes, I'm not exactly sure. We did see on social media that he had surgery, maybe dealing with kind of looked like a lower body. We don't have a confirmation on that report yet, though, so we'll see if they eventually get him back. But if you think about the depth that they've kind of had to test at times, interior D-line, they've passed those tests. Edge group, they've passed those tests. Keaton Wade has come in and been, I think, done a really nice job. They've moved him around a little bit, and you know, he did practice, I believe, a little bit in the spring at inside linebacker, then he went back to edge. Well, you know, they've moved him around. They've got packages just for him. You got Okunlola, you got BJ Green, some big sacks. I'm not sure Okunlola got to the quarterback tonight. I know BJ Green did, though. And, you know, the one thing that, again, I want to bring up, Amari McNeil, he's a guy that obviously played a lot last year. Coming into this year, you've got Nwankwo in the lineup now. You bring in Quinn Barnes, Taurine Carter, right? Tawfiq Thomas is in the lineup. Well, kind of, I mean, that's a lot of competition that they did not have last year. And I felt like at the end of last season, Amari really started to come on strong. And now, kind of due to injury, he's been forced back into the lineup, but he's been playing more and more. Obviously, with some of those other guys, he wouldn't see as many snaps. How about 3 tackles for a loss and a sack and a half? 9 total tackles. That's a big night for Amari McNeil. Wonderful young man, excellent young man, and I feel like we saw a little bit tonight of what we saw maybe at times at the end of last year, disruptive in the pocket, and that's all you're looking for from some of your interior guys. Just final notes. Yeah, I mean, here's your Tortillas, Texas Tech. 41-27, and after, again, that Kansas win over Iowa State, the Buffs are now solo second in the Big 12. This was what I felt like their toughest test remaining. It doesn't mean that you take your eye off the ball. It doesn't mean that you focus any less. In fact, Kansas stacking a couple, starting to play better. You know, they were 2-6 entering, now 3-6, but that team played better than maybe what their record showed, so you still have another tough road test ahead. And then next week with Utah, Big Noon is coming back. Gus Johnson, Joel Klatt, another national television game. Utah plays BYU tonight. They play them tonight. We'll see. I don't know, but we'll see. I mean, you kind of throw records out the window when we're talking about rivalry games a little bit to a degree, although I think the Utes' saving grace in that one is that they're in Salt Lake. We'll see how it plays out. But either way, the Buffs are now back to controlling their own destiny. And it's cool to see because they've worked their asses off to get back to this spot. And it's been everybody, right? Special teams have struggled at times. This year they struggled tonight, but they've also stepped up and made some big plays. Mata, a couple of big kicks, and certainly a massive one against Cincinnati to kind of put that game away. Vassett has been up and down, but I mean, when you get him with an opportunity to pin your opponent, something changes in his brain where he's like, all right, I got this. But if it's kind of like 25-30, again, it's been a little bit shakier than I know Mark wants, and Mark's a great guy, and I'm sure he'll be working his ass off this week to clean some of that stuff up. But defensively, the growth in this unit from last year, it's not just Robert Livingston, but he deserves a ton of credit. It's the defensive line coaches, it's Dancy, it's Lewis, it's Sapp, it's Andre Hart, it's Kevin Mathis. I don't want to forget anybody, so please don't get upset. The point is that you've got a lot of coaches now that are working together and are working as a unit to a degree that they never did last year, to the point where, I mean, you should see how fired up these guys are on the sideline for their team. It's pretty cool to see. I mean, everybody, I mean, the camaraderie here is at a different level than it was last year, certainly, and I think a lot of that has to do with the staff, but it also has to do with an experienced group. You've got guys that have seen a lot before, and even Brian Howell brought this up with Shedeur in the postgame that, Shedeur talked this summer and said it was important for him, at least, to have the experience of last year, so he kind of knew what he was dealing with to a degree, because he'd never really experienced the losing to that degree that they did last year, right? None of them, for the most part, had. And so having those experiences in your back pocket, having been to Lincoln this year, you know what a hostile environment looks like. And as loud as the speakers on the sideline were, it wasn't Lincoln. So again, finding different ways to win, the interception from Hill Green, gosh, I cannot remember who forced the fumble. I know it was Silman Craig that hopped on top. Maybe BJ Green? I'd have to go back and look at that one. But the point was, you got those two, and then Shiloh with the fumble recovery for touchdown at the end. Offense isn't stellar necessarily, quote unquote, in the second half. Well, here's a defense to pick up the slack. And again, it's just, to me, that's the thing that's really cool. And that's the thing that this team should take pride in, is that they're finding different ways to win, which is, in my opinion, the number one sign of a great team. Not a good team, a great team. And at 7-2 right now, Colorado's a pretty damn good team on the borderline of being a great team. And honestly, I mean, man, is that no, because they didn't end up getting to the number, but whenever you get a double-digit win on the road, because the Arizona game and the UCF game, that was the first time since 89-90 with consecutive games on the road wins by a 24-point or more margin. Tonight you didn't hit that, but shoot, beggars can't be choosers. Double-digit win on the road. Texas Tech, national television again, and Colorado showed up and took care of business. And now, the final three, talking about the biggest story in college football, I have not looked at social media at all. Although, tighten up. I got to tell y'all something. Y'all need to tighten up. I saw you guys on social media at the beginning of this game freaking out. They're not ready. They're not prepared. Haven't you been watching? Haven't you been watching lately? They're learning. They're getting better. They're poised. They're not letting the rope slip like they used to. That doesn't happen here. They fight like hell. This team does. And it's been a ton of fun to cover and a ton of fun to watch. And now it's 7-2. You're back to controlling your own destiny. If Colorado wins their next 3 games, I got to come back to the state of Texas. But I'll do it for that. Happily, I might add. So, look, I can't wait to get the hell out of here, so I am. Huge win for the Buffs, 41-27 over Tech. Let me know what you think in the comments, how you feeling about where things are at right now, heading into next week's matchup with Utah. Again, like and subscribe. I know everybody says it. It does help you out, gets you in the algorithms, and I'm a one-man band here, so I'd always appreciate the support. We'll talk to you from Boulder on Tuesday. Until next time, Matt Smith from Jones, AT&T Jones, Texas Tech, Lubbock, who cares, from Dub City.